Hello, welcome to Luminaire Stellaire Club. Today we're going to go over on some of the quilt embroidery that we do in the Luminaire slash Stellaire machines. Excuse my voice, I'm getting over a cold. My nephew decided to give me his cold, and I'm just getting over it. So I have a very high-pitched voice, and sometimes I lose it, lose the voice, but we're going to barrel through and get through this. One thing that we were going to start doing is going over more of the quilt embroidery in your quilting and embroidery machine. This is where you're actually going to do quilting in the hoop. There's many different aspects to this. We are going to touch base on each Luminaire Stellaire Club. We're going to touch base on each one. So we're going to take it through probably 5 or 6 sessions. I don't want to slam you with too much information, so we're going to do one at a time. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take a design such as like this quilt here, and excuse my cats, they like to run around. Get down, Danny. I'm moving, and so I have boxes everywhere. Danny, get down. So, and they just don't know what to do with themselves. So anyway, we are going to actually take a quilt, like for instance, I've got this cute little Mylar Elephants quilt from Purely Gates, and I put it all together, and I have these blocks that I want to quilt, but I don't want to quilt over the design. I want to quilt around the design, but not on it. So we're going to talk about how to do that today, and it's actually pretty easy. I do have to refer to my Luminaire playbook, or I don't believe the Stellaire has a playbook yet, but I would imagine they'll be coming out with one soon. With the Stellaire, the only difference is going to be on the scanning feature. Otherwise, everything should be the same. So, to get started, what we're going to do is you're going to take and hoop your backing, your batting, and your topping of your quilt. And I use a magnetic hoop because it's so much easier to deal with when you're quilting. And so you're going to sandwich that, and I usually just 505 spray it. That's the basting spray that works for me. And then what you're going to do is we're going to go into My Design Center on your machine. So I'm going to take you back so you can see you have these options here. Same thing with the Stellaire, and you can choose My Design Center, okay? So what we're going to do is we want to scan the image in your machine. So we're going to hit the little leaf with the arrow button, and we're going to image scan, okay? So we're going to hit scan, and then hit OK. As you can see, I have a very faint view of what I have in the hoop here. If you go up here, you can actually increase the outline or the image by darkening it. So I'm just going to darken it, okay? And then what I'm going to do is I want to stitch just on the white. I don't want to stitch on the blue. I'm going to do something different there. So what I'm going to do is I want to get an image, and I can either take my stylus and draw it where I want it to stitch, where I don't want it to stitch, or what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pick a square, and I'm just going to pick the image, and then I'm going to resize it. So I'm going to go to size, and I'm going to enlarge it on all ends. I just hold the button down until it gets to be about the size I want it to be. Now I don't want to get it too far off, so I'm going to just enlarge the ends right now and then move them. This is where it gets a little picky, where you're adjusting a little bit. So this does take some time, just, you know, and then I'm just going to kind of move it where I want it. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to resize the height now that I have the width the way I want it. And I'm just going to move it too. And this is where a lot of nitpicky kind of thing is. You're just being nitpicky on where you're going to put everything or what size you're going to get. Let's see, I'm going to bring it down now. I have it about the right size. I have it exactly where I want it. So I'm going to leave that now, and I'm going to hit OK. Now what I'm going to do is I want to make sure I select the draw, which is this button here, okay? Now the reason why I'm going to hit the draw is I'm going to draw around my image where I don't want it to stitch. So you can use your finger, you can use the stylus. I like using the stylus, And you might have to do it a few times just to get it right. I've had to do it a few times. See, sometimes it catches as I start doing it. So I'm just going to hit the back button. And I'm going to go around and start drawing around it. Okay? Now you'll notice I don't like the way this looks here. I don't like the way how far out I got. So I'm just going to hit the back button. I'm going to hit it again because I did a line there too. And the reason why I just hit the back button, it got rid of what I was doing. Like, I didn't like it. So I'm going to try doing it again. You got to hear it click. Otherwise, it's not going to do it. So once it was click there, it clicked. So now once I heard a dink, then I can go around. And, you know, the last time I did it a lot better than that. But I think part of it is because the camera's watching me. And so I'm getting a little nervous. Now, I want to make sure that everything connects, and that did not connect. So I'm going to back it out again, and this time I'm going to go around again. And I believe it connected. Now, the way I'm going to check is I'm going to fade out. And then you can see exactly what your image is. But you'll notice I have a flaw there. I don't like that. So I'm going to back out of there, and I'm going to back out of there, and I'm going to make it darker again. And then I'm going to go and do it again. One of these times I'm going to get it.
So it needs to be one continuous circle.
Yes, it needs to be one continuous circle. And I must have not hit that button. Okay, I did. Okay, and I'm going to leave it light so I just can see what I'm doing maybe. That's an option too. See, but it keeps doing that, and it's because of the angle that I'm at with the camera. I'm trying to let the camera in. So I'm going to try going like this. And I think this is going to be better. Okay, that's close. And it takes some time, obviously, to practice. And also just to get it right. So now I can see there's a gap there. I'm just going to try to draw my line. Come on. There. Nope, that didn't work. That didn't work. Just back out of there and do it again. Bear with me here. This is the hardest part. It might work better with my finger. But I keep missing it. When I practiced it, I didn't miss it at all. I think you guys are making me nervous. I missed it again. Let's see. So, there, now it connected. Okay. So now I can make the image darker. And I'm going to stop for a second and then we'll come right back. Alright, so the reason why I want to take a break is I just wanted to check one thing before I went on. So now that we have our line, and I'm going to fade out so you can see the line that we have. And you'll notice I have a little tail right there. That's okay. That doesn't matter. But you need it to close. It needs to be a closed circle or shape, because if it's not, when you go into the fill pattern, it will not know where to start. It knows that you don't want it in there. It knows you don't, because I have a box around there, that you don't want it outside the box. But if you have this open, what it's telling you is the fill needs to go inside, and then it will fill the whole thing up, and we don't want that. So we want to just make sure that they connect, and they did. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open the region properties, which is this button here. So this is your region properties. And at that point, what you're going to do is you're going to pick the stippling pattern, or you can go in here and pick whatever, design you want to pick. But I'm picking a stippling pattern is what I want. And so because of that, I'm going to pick a color that I want to use also because I want to see it. If you do a white, because I'm doing a white stippling, you're not going to see it on the screen. So I'm just picking red because I want to see it on the screen. So now what I'm going to do is, because I have that got in there and picked out what I want, is I want to pick the fill pattern. So I hit that button there, which is a little paint bucket with a little drip on there. Because I've hit that button, now when I tap there, it's going to fill, it's going to stitch, put the stippling in exactly where I want it to go. All right, so now that that's in place, I can say, all right, now I want to hit next because I want to adjust how big the stippling is. Because of me, I like smaller stippling. You might want bigger stippling. That's up to you on what you want to do. I, however, want my stippling to be more like that, okay? Now, this is a zigzag stitch around here. You don't have to do that. If you want it to be just a regular stitch, you can hit a regular stitch. If you don't want it to do anything, just skip it. Just don't stitch it out. That's what I do. You can adjust the parameter between the spacing on your stippling. You can see what it looks like. Give it a second. See, it's all little detail. And I want to have it... I like having a lot of little stippling in there. It makes it stick out, my design, and I like that. But some of you might not want that. So you might want to adjust it and make it maybe a little bit more wider. It's really up to you. You can play with it. Okay, see, that's a little bit more wider, and you'll notice it's inside. And I think actually for this design, the other stuff was just too close together. This is practically perfect. So I'm just going to bring it down to maybe a 3, and then see what that does. But you can play around with it, see what you want to do. Okay, so I kind of like that better, so I'm going to stick with that. And I'm just going to, if I'm going to do this with the other ones, I might want to write down what I'm doing so that I know what my width between my stippling, because you want them all to be the same. So I'm just going to write it down, and I write it down. You can get little note, I can't even talk today, excuse me. Little notepads or those little sticky notepads. Post-it notes, thank you. I couldn't come up with a word. And you can just write it on there. So I'm going to put that it had a 0.30 spacing in pencil. I'm not going to worry about this. This is going to be more of what I want to do for the distance around. So if we want to adjust just to see what it does. So now it's just going to kind of show you what it's doing here. Let's just move it together. And just to see the difference. There's not a whole lot of difference that you're gonna notice. It's just really adjusting, the width. So because we don't have much of a width between the square and the satin stitch, it's not going to even notice here. The run pitch, if you want to adjust that, you can. Just to show you the difference, I'm just going to do something drastic so you can see. See how the run pitch is like the circular motion of the stippling. If you want it more square, then you can adjust it so it looks more square. I don't like that. So, and because I want it back to where it was. If you don't know what it was, bring it back to the black. Where did it go? The black box. Come on. There it is. It just keeps disappearing from me. There. Okay, so we're going to put the run pitch back to where it was. Now, if you want it more curvy, you can do it a little bit more. Since a lot of it is, that's actually less curvy. I don't like that. So, oh, come on. I either go too fast or too slow. There's no even with me. Just going to do a little bit more. Just to be a little different. Okay, so I got that in there. So now, at this point, I think I'm ready. I like it. I'm good with the spacing. let's see. So I'm ready. I probably am ready to stitch it out. I'm going to hit set. It's going to convert into an embroidery pattern and then you'll be exited from My Design Center. So now we're in the embroidery field. Now I personally am not going to I don't want the satin stitch. I just did the square because it was easier than me drawing it out. Okay, and so that's why I did that. I'm going to skip that. I just want to stitch the stippling. Just don't do the next step, okay? So, because I have it threaded I'm just using a cotton, Egyptian cotton, King Tut, it's from Superior, thread on the top and on the bottom. And you can use the same thread on the top and on the bottom. I'm using a polyester 60 weight on the bottom. It is what, I don't care, it doesn't matter what you do. It will stitch it out. You do not need bat or stabilizer when you're doing quilting. You only need the backing, the batting, and the topping, and that gives you enough stabilization. So, because I'm ready, I'm going to hit embroidery. And now what I'm going to do is I have the background in purple because I needed to see the last thing I was doing. I'm going to go and change that, and I'm going to go into my settings menu before, and then I'm just going to go over and I'm going to find embroidery background color. And see, I have it selected there. I'm going to go back to doing white. I'm going to select that. So now when I come back out, it's white. Now, if you had this in white and you didn't know white on white, it's hard to see. When you go back into your machine, go into your settings menu, and you go to page 9, that's where you can pick your embroidery background color. If you don't, you want something a little bit lighter, or you want something so that you can see when you're stitching out things in white, you can see what it's stitching, you can do that. So that's another key hint. I didn't plan on telling you about that today, but I did because obviously I forgot to change that back. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're ready to sew. I'm dropping the presser foot. I don't have to in this one machine. I could just hit the green button, but I did. So we're going to hit the go button. Now you could also projected it just to make sure that it was going to stitch where you wanted to stitch. I didn't do that because I'm just like hoping that it will stitch where I wanted to stitch because I scanned it and I didn't move it. Go around. Let's take it from the back.
Give you a little different view here.
Yeah, it's just going to go to the back of the machine so you can see what it's doing and what it looks like when it's done stitching. All right, now I'm gonna have Wendy come around to the front, and I'm actually pulling the hoop off because it's done stitching. And now, Wendy, let me know if you need a better light. But now if you look at the quilting, it did all the quilting around here. Now because I didn't have a wide enough hoop, I did an 8x12. I probably should do a 9.5 by 9.5, but I didn't have one on me, and I'm moving, everything's all packed up. So it would get all the way over here. What I'm gonna just do is, I'll just probably do a stitch in the ditch around it too, because I like the making it a little bit poofy, but I just want to kind of give it a background type look. But this would probably be a better if I had a 9.5 by 9.5, because it would give it a wider parameter, so I could definitely get right to the edge. Where I didn't get quite to the edge here, but I did get right to the edge here and here, and that's just because I had the wrong size hoop. So because I'm dealing with a move right now, we kind of have to do things with limited amounts of stuff. And just make it work. But it gave you the idea. It showed you exactly how to do it. Just if you're doing something as wide as this, you might want a little bit wider of a hoop. Now with the Stellaire, instead of hitting the camera on here, what you're going to do is you're going to take a picture of what's in your hoop with your phone or with the little notebook that you get with the machine, and then it will come up on the screen just like it does, as long as you have everything set up, just like it does with the camera here. So it's the same concept, but everything else you do exactly the same. So that is what we're doing. I'm going to finish doing it on the rest of these, and then I'm going to do the sashing next. And that we will go over in our next Luminaire Club, is going over sashing and how to do endless quilting in the sashing area and the borders, is what we'll do next, okay? If you have any questions, please feel free to call the shop. I can help you. Jean from the Green Bay store can help you. Yolanda is very good with the Luminaire at the Wausau store, but you can always call the Appleton store because I'm there. And if I'm not there, they'll let you know where to find me. So I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you learned a lot. I'm trying to limit the amount of information we give you in each class, just so that you can, file them for when you're ready to do something like this. You just have to bring up this video. Also, there's only so much we can absorb, so that's why we're doing it one step at a time. So this one is actually doing quilting in a block and making sure that you don't stitch over the design that you embroidered. I've had a lot of people asking me about this. So I definitely wanted to go over that with you. And next, we will go over doing sashing and different ideas that you can do with the sashing, with quilting, and different ideas for borders and things like that. So probably on the same quilt. I might have another quilt that might work better for it, to give you a better idea. But if you have any questions, like I said, call the shop. But thank you, and we'll talk to you next time.